today we are going to do my ranking of every 2025 video games I've played. However, this time I will do things a little bit differently. As you can see, I have a grid from grids.fun, and I will fill a square with a game that fits the categories I made the most. And at the end, I will reveal my top 12 favorite games of 2025. Because I played 12 video games in 2025, which is more than the last 2 years. Let's go! More games! So let's do this. Before we start, I will name all of the games I played in 2025 so that you guys will know exactly what games I am comparing to, and that throughout all the video you won't be like, where's Expedition 33? Now you know the answer is because I haven't played Expedition 33. Seems like a good game though. So, the games I ranked are Mario Kart World, Donkey Kong Bonanza, Deltarune Chapter 3 and 4, because yes, I will count both those chapters as a game, even though they are part of a game. Why? Because it's my list. Metroid Prime 4, Pokemon Legends ZA, Kirby Air Riders, Sonic Cross World, Pac-Man World Repack 2, Shadow Labyrinth, Yooka-Laylee, Dispatch, and Silksong. You can make your predictions in the comments on which games you think will win each categories. And I will have a lot of fun reading them. Also, don't hesitate to share your opinions. I love hearing people's opinion. A lot. And don't hesitate to make it long as fuck. I love long comments. They're my favorites. There's a reason why I make them all the time. Now I will go from top right to top left because that will make more tension for when I will reveal my favorite game of all time. So let's start with biggest surprise. This is the game that surprised me the most in a positive way. Pokemon Legends ZA, it did surprise me, but I knew I would like it because I am extremely Poke-pilled. Silksong surprised me for reasons I will explain later. But I would say overall the biggest surprise of 2025 was Pac-Man World 2 Repack. Like, before I played this game, because I didn't play the original, even though I saw a lot of videos about it, I thought it would be like a regular platformer, like that it would be good, but not extraordinary. But turns out, the game controls alone made me absolutely love this game. This game controls super well. I don't know how they did this. And even as a remake, I didn't expect them to do what they did with the post-game. Like, there is a very expensive post-game, and I love that. And even the missions were a really cool addition. So yeah, this was the game that was the most surprisingly good for me. Now, best ending. I will try to not spoil, so I don't want to spoil too much of those games. So I will try to be rather vague. That being said, I will say there is a couple of endings that are great. Donkey Kong Bonanza has a really good twist that leads to an insane climax. I got the virgin ending of Dispatch, And despite arguably being the least satisfying ending, I think that narratively it works very well. But my favorite ending overall is Deltarune Chapter 3 and 4. Specifically, Chapter 4. Now, despite being the ending of the middle of the full game, technically, as an ending of a middle chapter, it's incredible. It really fills me with a lot of different emotions. And it's definitely darker than the other endings things we got in chapter 1 and 2, for example. Really great ending. And I can't imagine how phenomenal the ending of the actual final chapter will be. Maybe it won't be that good, so let's keep our expectations reasonable. Most anticipated game. This is the game from 2026 that I am the most excited to play. And to be clear, even though there are a couple of 2026 games that have already come out, I didn't play any of them yet. So it will be like I made this video before they came out. So I am very excited for the next Castlevania game. I never played the original Tomodachi Life, but it seemed really good, and in fact I can now play the better version of the game on the Switch is incredible. But my most anticipated game of 2026 is Bubsy 4D. It was already the game I was the most excited to play for 2026 because the gameplay looks so good, and the idea of taking a franchise as infamous as Bubsy and making a good game out of it was incredibly based. But now, not only at the moment I'm making this video, the game already come out and apparently it's actually good. So that means I didn't set up my expectations too highly, unless when I played it I turned out to not get it for some reason. I don't see how this would happen. But on top of that, in preparation for Bubsy 4D, I played the Perfect Collection, which is technically a collection from 2025 now that I think about it. But because it's largely unchanged games, I decided to not include it. But now I played those games, I am invested in Bubsy, which will make the moment I play Bubsy 4D even more incredible. Also, I love Bubsy 3D despite and because of how shit it is. I low-key want to make a video about Bubsy 3D. I'm obsessed about this game now. Help me. Help me! So by the time I was editing this video, I played Bubsy 4D and I can confirm it was really good. Now, best replayability. Now, for a game to have a great replayability, it shouldn't be a game that when I replay after not playing it for multiple years, I still love it. It's a game that I will be able to still really enjoy even when I just played it like last week or yesterday. Silksong legit has a lot of replayability. The problem is that it's very long. So it kind of discourages me to want to replay it. Even though when I think of the game, I'm like, oh my god, now that I know the game, I should do this and this on my next playthrough. I also do really want to replay this patch because I only got one of the endings, and it's the virgin ending. So I want to see the other decisions I could make, even though it will be Really hard to get rid of Sonar. Really hard. But easily the most replayable game of 2025 for me is Donkey Kong Bonanza. To give you an idea, I already played Bonanza at 100%. And then I was like, what if I did a bunch of speedrun skips and didn't get a single banana and tried to not use transformations during boss battles? Like, there are so many ways to play this game. There's a lot of intended sequence break. Like, the game acknowledge you can do sequence break. Pauline will say, hey, you didn't do this thing. If you manage to skip a thing. Incredible replayability for this game. There is a disclaimer though. Multiplayer focused games don't count. That's because it's boring. It's just, oh, you can play this with your friends, therefore it's replayable. For me, a game to win best replayability should be replayable even though you have fucking nobody else to play with. And to be clear, some racing games can do that. Some multiplayer focused games can do that. Crash Team Racing is incredible for that. But yeah, turn my brain off. Turn my brain off games is for games that I could play asleep and still have a lot of fun with. I will say, as a big fan of collectathons, games like Donkey Kong Bonanza and Yooka-Replay are really the kind of game I play with my brain turned off. They are so good for that, I love them. However, they cannot beat my actual pick. It's Kirby Air Riders. Like, this is a game that you can make cool stuff happen by accident. You lose controls of your vehicle and it's really funny. That doesn't mean that you can play this game like a fucking tryhard and not have fun. But if you do turn your brain off, you can still have a lot of fun with Kirby Air Riders. Now, for the best game that isn't from 2025, that I've played in 2025. So first, I will say that I will not accept games that I already played before 2025, so no Super Mario Odyssey. That being said, you're the main contenders. Wario World is another great game from my favorite franchise of all time, which are the Wario platformers, Wario Land and World. And it's cool to finally have played the 3D entry of the series. There is the 2 Banjo games. Yes, I have played the Banjo games for the first time in 2025. Banjo-Tooie isn't that great, but Banjo-Kazooie is legit my favorite game of the Nintendo 64. Super good game with excellent pacing. But it couldn't beat F-Zero GX. I will say I played F-Zero X before and it was good. It was better than Mario Kart 64 when it comes to Nintendo 64 racing games. But it wasn't incredible. F-Zero GX is absolutely incredible. Like, the controls are so good. The game feel is so great. Right? It has a lot of style. The track design is very good. It has an adventure mode. So that means it has actual content. Yeah. Now I am with everyone that wants a F-Zero game as soon as possible. It's been way too long, Nintendo. Please. Now, best multiplayer. It's the game with the best multiplayer. Now, I am forever alone, so I am not an expert in this, but I don't think it's controversial to say that it's really between the 3 racing games I played. As for which one? Kirby Air Riders as City Trial. And that's all I will say. Best soundtrack is easily the most contested category of this whole list. There are so many incredible soundtracks, bro. Of course, Toby Fox cooked with Deltarune Chapter 3 and 4. Sonic Racing Cross Worlds soundtrack is incredible. Same with Kirby Air Riders. Many of the biggest bangers from 2025 comes from Pokemon Legends ZA. However, despite having a lot of incredible soundtrack, none of them can beat Mario Kart World. There's too many songs. The jukebox is insane. How the hell is there so many remixes that are so good in this OST? And even outside the jukebox, and if we just talk about the soundtrack of the main tracks, for example, there is still a lot of incredible bangers in there. Like, even without the jukebox, it would have been an heavy consideration for number 1 best soundtrack. Now, favorite antagonist. This is for the game which has the best villain / antagonist. I will say my favorite character that happens to be a villain is Mr. Antenna. But the thing is, even though he is incredible as a character, as a villain, I do think there is one character that is better than him. To be clear, I have Donkey Kong Bonanza here as representation of Void Kong. Not only do I think Void Kong has a very, very cool and even somewhat interesting personality, but he also manages to be a legitimate threat to the heroes. I really enjoy Void Kong. Favorite protagonist. This is for basically the best main character of the game. And unfortunately, I am not very passionate about most protagonists in not only games in general, but also for 2025 games. If we could count Pauline or especially Susie as protagonists, they would be here instead. But I guess that the main protagonists of those games are actually Donkey Kong and Chris, so we can't have them. Thankfully, there is still an excellent option left. Robert Robertson III. John Dispatch himself. Just excellent voice acting, and despite the fact you have multiple choices throughout the game, Robert still feels like Robert no matter which option you choose. And I think that's great. Now, some people might notice that there is not a most underrated game category. So let me explain. Underrated games are games that are less appreciated than they should be. Are we on the same page here? Because of that, every overrated games are underrated. Because they are more hated than they should be. Right? Now, when I say this to some people, they often say, oh, but underrated is for things that are less appreciated than they should be, without being hated. But in that case, that's just what criminally overlooked is. Like, a criminally overlooked thing isn't necessarily hated, but it should receive more attention. And like, there's just nobody talking about them or praising them. So in the end, having overrated, underrated, and criminally overlooked at the same time is extremely redundant. That being said, what is the most criminally overlooked game of 2025? I'd say it's Yooka-Replay. Yooka-Replay fits really well the description of an overlooked game. Like most people I know really like this game, but not a lot of people have played it. Probably because the original game wasn't that well liked, right? And a remake wasn't the most exciting thing. But trust me, it's a really good game and a really good remake. They basically, instead of being inspired by Menjo, it feels more inspired by Super Mario Odyssey, which is very interesting and works extremely well. So if you like Super Mario Odyssey and are willing to play anything that is similar to it, Yooka-Replay is there for you. It's awesome. Now, best remake. There are some remakes that are good because they are remaking good games. The game I would like to have for best remake is the remake that offers the best improvements on the original game. Now there are only 2 remakes included in this list, and those are Pac-Man World 2 Repack and Yooka-Replay. And I will say, in terms of how much they improve on the original, Pac-Man World 2 Repack is probably the best. However, that's partly because the original Pac-Man World 2 had more flaws that were easy to fix. Remaking Yooka-Laylee and making it a significantly better game requires much more effort. And with Replay, that's exactly what they did. Because of that, I would say it gets my pick for best remake. There's also the fact that some of the stuff they added in Pac-Man World 2 Repack has definite flaws that I would have liked them to fix. Like the missions, sometimes they are not very clear on what the objective is. And also, some bosses in the post-game are a little insane. Alright, most overrated game. I will say, there are not a lot of overrated games I played. However, there is one game that I do feel is slightly overrated. It's Sonic Racing Cross Worlds. Most of the people that like this game and say it's so much better than Mario Kart World are people that say it's good because it didn't do things that World did. But in my perspective, it's just that Sonic Racing Cross Worlds did a lot less risk. It has way less content than Mario Kart World and Air Riders in terms of interesting side modes. And whereas as Mario Kart World has new racing mechanics like the parkour and rail riding, that are awesome and honestly feels like mechanics you would see in a Sonic game. Sonic Racing Cross Worlds is kind of just Mario Kart 8 Deluxe again. And like, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is very good, so Sonic Racing Cross Worlds is also really good. And in fact, I think it's better than Mario Kart 8 Deluxe in quite a few places. But I wanted more than Mario Kart 8 Deluxe again. I wanted to see new modes we haven't seen before. And I wanted to see new mechanics that makes the game even more fun. Cross Worlds doesn't have a lot of that, personally. It's just a really good racing game and nothing that incredible. cast of characters. That's honestly a category that should be in more grids like this. Let's be real. You know, with favorite protagonists and antagonists, you are only judging one of the characters in the game. And in the case of protagonists in particular, the protagonists of a game are often a little boring, personally. So those categories doesn't end up being a good representation of how good a game is at writing characters. Which is where best cast of characters come in. We are judging on how good on average the characters in a game are. Now, after criticizing Sonic Racing Cross Worlds, I would say that I would give credit for this game for being a racing game where judging the characters is legit interesting. The rival interactions actually make the characters in Sonic Racing Cross Worlds, well, characters. And they are very fun to watch. I honestly think Sonic Racing Cross Worlds is up there for best cast of characters because of those rival interactions. I will also give a lot of credits to Pokemon Legends ZA, which has many great characters. Corbo is one of the best characters of 2025, changed my mind. He's also the oddest character in 2025, but I don't think I needed to tell you that, right? Obviously, Dispatch has very good characters. The members of the Z team are so great. I love those guys. However, there was no way any game could beat a Toby Fox game. So already you could argue it was already Jover as soon as this game had Susie at her best and the other games didn't. Alright? But come on, it's a game written by Toby Fox. He can never not write awesome characters. This man can't be stopped. I love Tenna. I love how much they expended on Chris Ralsei and Susie. Gerson is my GOAT. I could go on, but yeah. Now for overrated game. Now what's cool about 2025 is that with the arrival of the Switch 2 came the arrival of the Switch 2 grifters. Because of the higher price of the console and the games, people were much harsher against the Switch 2 games than they deserved. They deserve some criticism, I will say that. But come on, not that much. I understand Metroid Prime 4 was a bit disappointing, but it's still a good game overall. There are many great moments in this game. Honestly, the desert isn't that bad, I just wish there was more interesting stuff to do in it. I already talked about Mario Kart World when talking about Sonic Racing Cross World as an overrated game. But yeah, I understand that the intermissions can be boring. But not only do I not think they're that bad, and that the game has a lot of great things to make up for it, but the intermissions are kind of fun too. Like, did you know, guys, that there is an intermission with a tornado that sends you in the air and activates your glider? That's cool as fuck. That's cooler than some of the tracks in the game. The open world is also very fun for reasons I might explain later. However, the most overrated game of 2025 is what happens when you mix the Switch 2 the 8 can get with the 8 Pokemon can get just by doing nothing. That's right, Pokemon Legends ZA, baby! I will say it, not only is it not that bad of a game, but it's legit a great Pokemon game. I have a lot of fun with Pokemon Legends ZA. Does it have flaws? Yes. Does it have flaws other than shit I don't care about, like the building textures? Yes. However, I feel like there is probably a reason why people shit on that game but rarely bring up the gameplay, because the gameplay is really fun. I love exploring Lumio City. It's really cool to climb a random rooftop and find a rare Pokemon up there. There are some people that when they say Legend ZA is bad, I understand them. But other people, perhaps you exaggerate a bit. Maybe you haven't played the game, I don't know. For best combat, there are really two games that are competing for that spot. Although shout out to Shadow Labyrinth, I do think the combat in that game is very fun. The first is Deltarune Chapter 3 and 4. They took the excellent turn-based combat of Undertale and Deltarune and just expanded more and more after every chapter. However, yeah, my pick is Silksong. Been a while since I brought up that game, huh? I don't think I ever mentioned that game until now. That's interesting. Like, the movement of Hornet is so good to move around obstacles and fight enemies. And there are also so many incredible bosses, so many different tools you can make to experiment with the combat. I don't think it's that controversial to say Silksong as the best combat of 2025. Now, biggest personal impact. That would be the game of 2025 that isn't necessarily the best, but had the biggest impact on my gaming life when I played it. For Mario Kart World, I said I would mention the open world later. This is now. Not only are there cool missions to do, but also the open world in Mario Kart World is the kind of things you would mess around a lot as a child. And even as an adult, I did shit like follow a Toad in a car around to see what he was up to. And that was extremely funny. The fact there was a game that allowed me to do that is incredible. However, there was no way any of those games could beat Silksong. I said that Silksong surprised me. The reason why is because I wasn't the biggest fan of the first Hollow Knight. When I first played Hollow Knight, there was a lot of things I loved about this game. In fact, I think it's a good game overall. And I might like it a lot more if I played it now. But there was a lot of things that pissed me off. And it's kind of by design. Hollow Knight is one of those games that intentionally pisses you off by showing you how cruel the game is by having the world punishing you. Like, it fits with the atmosphere and lore of the game. And it makes the game more memorable too. When I first played it, this was the reason why this game kind of pissed me off. However, after thinking about it much, I didn't see this as actual flaws of the game, but I saw it as a thing that isn't for me. That being said, I was still very interested in trying the sequel. Now, I played Silksong with the expectations that it would piss the hell out of me and be very punishing. And turns out that by doing that, not only did I really love the game, like a lot, but also now it's like the tables have turned, because now I see people criticizing Silksong for the exact same reasons that I didn't like Hollow Knight as much as other people. Going into Hunter's March early to fight Savage Beast Fly early and get your ass kicked is the equivalent of when I went to Waterways early and fucked through Kermarm and had a miserable time. A lot of people said that the original Hollow Knight isn't as brutal, but the way I see it, it's just more of the same. Basically, I went from Hollow Knight's biggest hater to Silksong's biggest defender, which is really an incredible full circle moment. And because of that, I'd say Silksong had an incredible impact on me. Not only that, but I love all the content that was made on Silksong. So many cool videos to watch from this game. And, oh my god. Next is favorite art style. Now you might expect Silksong to win again, because people love the Hollow Knight art style and for very good reasons. Definitely one of the best art styles that were made. But I do have another pick. I also really like the art style of this patch. Really makes me feel like it was a real TV show. However, I would say my pick overall is Donkey Kong Bonanza. Crash Bandicoot 4 was already one of my favorites, and that's because of how cartoony and expressive those 3D graphics were. And Bonanza is basically more of the same. I love how expressive all the characters are. The worlds are beautiful to look at. Between this and Mario Kart World, I love the more cartoony approach Nintendo has been taking with Mario lately. And I can't wait to see what they'll do with the 3D Mario if they ever release that thing. Now, best story. I will say in another year, perhaps Donkey Kong Bonanza would have won this. It has a really good story for a collectathon game. Like, it's surprisingly really well done. That being said, there are two other games in 2025 that I played that unfortunately were made to be some of the best stories he's ever made this year. So yeah, let's just say the competition was too fierce. Now obviously I have to mention this patch. Super good story. However, yeah, Deltarune Chapter 3 and 4 are back again. Just amazing characters, amazing pacing. Like, it's just an incredibly paced story with very interesting themes and emotional moments. And I already said it has the best cast of characters on top of all that. This leaves us with my ranking of every games of 2025 and the reveal of my favorite game of 2025. Unfortunately, one game had to be at the bottom, and that game had to be Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. Now, compared to Sonic Superstars and Princess Peach Showtime, the previous bottom spots of the yearly rankings I do, Metroid Prime 4 Beyond is the best of those games. The thing is, aside from the amazing visuals, there is not a lot of things in Metroid Prime 4 that make me go like, wow, this is so amazing and incredible. It's just a really good first-person shooter. And that's about it. Still a great game, but unfortunately the weakest I played from 2025. At number 11, we have Shadow Labyrinth. So here is the thing about Shadow Labyrinth. It's budget Ori. More specifically, budget Ori Will of the Wisp. It has the same things that makes Ori and the Will of the Wisp good, but not as good and polished. But turns out that budget Ori Will of the Wisp is still a really good game. And what really makes this game above Metroid Prime 4 Beyond is the fact that the sections where you play like pseudo classic Pac-Man, it's kind of hard to explain exactly how it is. I probably just show footage of it in the editing. Those sections are super fun and really gives the Pac-Man sauce to this game, and that makes it a little bit more than just budget Ori Will of the Wisp. So it does get to the extra mile, but yeah, it's not enough to go higher for me. At number 10 we have Sonic Racing Cross Worlds. So I already said why it's not higher on the list when I talked about it as an overrated game. But now let's focus on why this game is still great. Because I honestly expected it to be low, to be like at the bottom before playing it. But it did impress me in some ways. The tracks are incredible. The controls are basically those of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe but better. But now that I played Sonic Racing Cross Worlds, I think that the small ups you do in Mario Kart are useless. I think Mario Kart should remove hopping and should assign drifting and tricking to a different button, because that's exactly what Cross Worlds did and it's so much better. And I also really like the rival interactions, like I said. It's just kind of an excellent racing game and nothing more. Next we have the other Pac-Man game. It was a very good year for Pac-Man, honestly. So nothing really else to add that I already didn't say. It's a game carried by charm and great controls. And as a remake, it fixed a lot of things. There are now extra missions to do to compensate for the fact that now we don't have to do this annoying thing where you have to get every single pack pellet to complete a level to 100%. Really good game. I really wonder what they'll do with Pac-Man World 3 Repack if we do it. And I'm really interested in getting a brand new Pac-Man World game. Next we have the other remake, Yukari Lady. Like I said, this game is basically smaller Super Mario Odyssey. Super duper fun game. Improve on the original game, which I already quite liked. Then at number 7 we have Mario Kart World. So I said it not only when I talked about Sonic Racing Cross Worlds, but also when I talked about Mario Party Superstars on my last yearly video games ranking. But I like when my multiplayer focused games has things to do other than the main gameplay we all know. And Mario Kart World is pretty much automatically my favorite Mario Kart game because it has the most stuff outside regular racing. Not only is there the open world I really enjoy, but there is also Knockout Tour. That's a game mode we didn't have before. And in an update, they added custom items. So the best feature of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is now also in Mario Kart World. And also, yeah, the tracks are incredible. And I adore the new mechanics they've added. The parkour and grind rails are so good. I love Mario Kart World. After that, we have Dispatch at number 6. It was the first time I played a game in the style of Telltale games. So playing a game where I had influence on the events that played like a TV show was a really cool experience for me. And if we judge it simply by its story, well, it's a very good TV show, I guess. Love the characters, and I recommend anyone over the age of 13 to play it. After that, at number 5, we have Pokemon Legends ZA. Yes, I love that game this much. I pretty much already said why I like this game. I will say that in some ways it's a drawback from Legends Arceus, because Legends Arceus had a better catching mechanic and a better atmosphere and tension when meeting wild Pokemon. However, Legends ZA make up for it for having a more interesting setting and also a more involved battle system. Like, the battle system of Legend Arceus was a very cool experiment, but it clearly wasn't the focus. While in Legend ZA, it's something much more substantial and fun. And because of that, Legend ZA and Legend Arceus are pretty much both my favorite Pokemon games. Don't force me to pick yet, please. I beg of you. And yeah, I also love the characters, and the story is pretty solid too. And after that, at number 4, we have the best racing game of 2025, Kirby Air Riders. So if we take my talk of side games in multiplayer focused games, Kirby Air Riders has the best content. Kirby Air Riders not only has regular racing, but it famously has Sea Trial, the game mode that everyone doesn't stop praising. There is Top Ride, in case you just want to play it, and like, it's fun. I like Top Ride. And then we also have essentially an adventure mode, and it's really cool to follow. It has a cool story and really cool objective to do. You can even do some fucked up machines if you want. And outside the side modes, the core gameplay is just really good. That's like the only racing game I ever played that I can say you would pick a different vehicle because you have a different playstyle from others, instead of just because it's the optimal vehicle to pick. In this way, Kirby Air Riders is very similar to a fighting game, considering it was developed by Mr. Smash Bros. Himself. That isn't that surprising when you think about it. After that, we have Silksong. Honestly, I don't feel like talking that much about this game. Like, everyone already said how amazing this game is. I guess the only reason why it's not higher is because there is still this part of me that isn't the biggest fan of the Hollow Knight punishing gameplay. Like, I am much more into games like Celeste that are really hard but doesn't punish you at all for your mistakes. But even then, if you just made Hollow Knight like Celeste, it wouldn't be Celeste anymore. So really, now that we are in the top 3, it's really a question of preference. Then at number 2 we have Deltarune Chapter 3 and 4. I already talked about the story a lot. I really should talk more about the gameplay, because not only is the turn-based combat as fun as ever, with some of the best boss fights I've ever seen in a video game, but the fights are also very well paced. Like, even in some of the best RPGs ever made, there are times where I am kind of bored to just play fights over and over again. Deltarune manages to pace the gameplay between fights, mini-games, and just overworld exploration. You never get tired of anything in Deltarune. However, as the collectathon and platformers guy, it was way too hard of a task to overtake Donkey Kong Bonanza. I didn't get to say it because I never released my ranking of the best collectathon I've ever played. But collectathon collectathons are my favorite video game genre, and Donkey Kong Bonanza is probably the best collectathon game there is. The movement is incredible, there is a lot of attention to detail everywhere. Smashing terrain is such an amazing idea and is so satisfying. There are so many different ways to play this game that makes it not only very replayable, but allows you to create your own fun in your own ways. Really, the team behind Super Mario Odyssey can't do anything wrong, can they? So this is it. This is my ranking of every 2025 video games I played, and some more stuff on top of that. I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't hesitate to tell me in the comments what are your favorite 2025 games. And until then, I am Eclipseman and I wish you a good day or night or anything else.